everybody. This is Pastor Brady Henderson from the First Baptist Church, located in the Midlands of South Carolina, right here in Gaston, South Carolina. And we are here today on Thursday, February the 27th, and we've only got one day of February left. And so, Alan, that's crazy. It's hard to believe that, is it not?
Yeah, man, time keeps moving on.
And so this is officially the one-year anniversary of our podcast. We started last February. And if you're a faithful listener, please let us know, whether that's letting us know in person, whether that's emailing the church at fbcg003@bellsouth.net, whatever it is for you. Please let us know. We want to know that you're listening, and we appreciate you sticking with us throughout this year. We've got a lot of content coming your way this year, but today we are continuing our sit-down interview with Deacon Stafford Johnson, and so this is part 2. If you did not hear part 1, please go back, listen to last week's episode, and that'll get you caught up. So, Stafford, we are here with you again, and so we kind of touched on last week, your salvation and a little bit of that. Just wanted to talk to you just for a second about what it's like to serve, and if I'm missing any of your service areas, let me know. There's a lot. Deacon, obviously, assistant Sunday school teacher, children's worship teacher, and RA teacher. So talk to me a little bit about those roles and how you're feeling so far in 2025 with all of that.
Well, thank you. Assistant Sunday school teacher, I haven't had the opportunity to fill in yet for my
for your teacher Lee.
My teacher Lee, but
all right, Lee, get on that.
He's a good guy, and but no, we put our heads together a lot. He's family. Nathan calls him Uncle Lee, so
that's awesome.
We see each other.
And y'all are neighbors.
Yeah, we are. Okay. We're neighbors. Matter of fact, we have a text group 3 doors down.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's what you call the text group.
That's what we call the text group.
Okay, see, he's younger than me in his mind, so I don't keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, because we live 3 doors down from each other. But
gotcha.
We, as a matter of fact, if we're not at church, we're with the Sanfords. That's they've become family. Yeah, so there's that, and then RAs has always had a special place in my heart for a long time. I grew up in the RA program, and I feel like the young boys sometimes it's a tough ministry, and it's a tough ministry to reach, and sometimes they get forgotten. I enjoy my times as an RA, and I had the opportunity at 17 and 18 years old to fall in and help out with Tim Fanning back in the day when just there was some things, and hey, it just became, hey, well, we need help, so I helped. And then now being back at the church and having the opportunity to fill in and teach the 4th through 6th grade Crusaders, and also when we have to fill in, we teach the 1st through 3rd grade lads too. It's been an interesting experience teaching these young boys about Christ, but not just about Christ, but about how to be young godly men.
Yep.
And something that they will need in their future, as especially as they get through school. It's not easy, and now these kids are exposed to so much more than we were back in our days. We're having cell phones all the time and everything else, so that's just a huge. And then children's worship became a huge passion of mine as well, with wanting to get in and help, because not only do I believe in children's ministry, I believe that's where God's called me, but also, I noticed there wasn't a lot of men.
Yeah.
And I feel like those young boys need that example, and if I can be that example, it's a huge responsibility. And I don't know if I'm always up for it. I pray every day about being up for it. That it was just needed. I felt like it was needed.
For sure.
Well, yeah, that's very important, because a lot of these guys, and we have a number of folks in our congregation that work with the schools, and a lot of the folks in these positions in these schools is, that's one of the big things that's missing from kids' lives is positive male role models.
Yep.
And that's very important at church.
Yeah. I think of how many of the children that I've come in contact with in the last 2-3 years that through talking and finding out, they're being raised by their grandparents and things like that, so parents aren't even in the household.
Yep.
And, the grandparents are having to take on that role. So I feel like, it's anything I can do to help out and to try to show them God's love is definitely a plus and needed.
Yep.
Because we don't know what a lot of these children is, what they're exposed to at home and at school.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what's it like being a younger deacon? I mean, we know the Greek word for deacon is diakonos, which literally means servant. So what is that like checking on families, being in the hospitals. I mean, I know you worked in a hospital, but when you were younger, but what is it like, walking in that hospital room and praying for somebody? What is that experience like? Or going in the home or whatever?
It's a unique experience for sure. It was definitely intimidating at first. Like me and you have talked about with the hospital visits, when you go and see somebody at the hospital, when you're visiting at the hospital, that's probably the worst that you're going to see them, and they're at their worst. So having to have discernment and understand, hey, I don't want to camp out. I don't want to, stay all day, and just let them know that I care about them. God cares about them.
That's right.
And also the biggest thing is that I've kind of learned to say is God is in control.
Yeah.
And even at our worst, we may not know it, but God has a plan. So just reminding that and of God's love, and then having the opportunity to pray for them is, in a sense, very rewarding. Definitely, which is something that I did not expect.
Yeah.
But it has been a ministry to me as well, which is very. I guess I didn't know that, or didn't really understand that when I set to becoming a deacon, that I would be ministering to myself on top of other people, about how much I would get out of it as well, which has been a very eye-opening experience, because
Awesome.
God is working on me at the same time He's working through me, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
So,
it's how it's supposed to be.
Service is very fulfilling.
It is.
I hate to go into I hate going into unknown situations, and you get this call, and you know that somebody's in the hospital, and I don't think he'll mind me mentioning this, but I thought about the night the pastor and our families were together, and Brother Chris Pound had his heart attack.
Yep, I remember that.
We walked into we had no idea what you're walking into.
Nope.
And, fortunately, when we walked in there, Brother Chris was sitting up, and he was the same Chris that we expected to see, And but you don't ever know what you're going to walk into, and 9 times out of 10, you need to be prepared for that. So you usually build stuff up in your mind, but it's so fulfilling when you get in there, and regardless of how bad it is, you touch those people. They know that you care because of Christ's love.
Yep. We love because He first loved us. And I think what's interesting too, in this age that's so much easier, I know some folks, they want to be visited in person, and I get that. But there's also a ton of power in a text or a phone call.
Yes.
And I think that allows deacon ministry to really, really soar.
And it's so quick and easy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm thinking about you.
Exactly. So I think that's neat. So we were talking off air. Both these guys, other than me, they've kind of showed their age this afternoon, because they Stafford mentioned that he had job shadowed Mr. Allen, and they were trying to figure out back when that was, and they realized it was back in the 90s. So what do you remember from that day, Alan, with little Dwayne following you at ETV?
I was like, man, I'm in trouble.
He probably did look like little Dwayne back then too. Me.
It's always been intimidating to me. Let me tell you, children intimidate me. One of the hardest things for me to do is good news clubs.
Yeah.
I do love it. It's an opportunity. I spent some time in children's worship, and hey, the more you do these things, the better you get at it. And you learn things that help you have the benefit of having other people teaching you and mentoring you. And so you learn all these things that you do. And I have crashed and burned so many times, and there's been always somebody there to put their arm around me and pull me out of this mess that I'm getting in. And, they see it unraveling. And that's been very fulfilling to see the brethren. And I'm not just talking about deacons. I'm talking about a lot of guys in this congregation, some that, aren't nearly as active as I am, being encouraging. And I think that's one of the big things that really helped me out in my personal growth.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Stafford, I wanted to ask you a question, and you and I have talked about this before, but having grown up here and been a little guy here, obviously, we won't go all into your testimony today, but, went at North Greenville and moved back, and then had some hardships, and so just some different things. And by the way, we all go through a running period, whether you stay in the pew or not. Everybody goes through that. What when you came back? Obviously, I knew of you before you came. Dwayne and I had talked about it. I'd already been praying for you guys and all that kind of stuff. Because at that time, your sister, I believe, was in Somerville with her husband. And so I said, you have any other kids? And he said, well, yeah, I got a son. His name's Stafford. I was like, oh, okay. Who was this guy? And so he told me a little bit about you and everything. And then you guys started coming and all of that. So, and you could say the rest is history. I baptized your wife. That was a privilege. I don't think she'll mind me saying this, but didn't grow up in church, didn't have that blessing that all three of us have had. And I think it is a blessing. But still, like Stafford said, dedicated, serving in the church, all that. What do you think, what's changed? I mean, it would be easy to say the paint color's changed or the grass has changed or whatever, but from a kid growing up in the 90s to a young man serving as a deacon in 2025 with a son and a wife both serving in the church, I mean, what's changed, and why come back and worship to the place where you grew up? Why do that?
As time goes on, and as like you said, I grew up here in the 90s, and we all know the world is different now than it was in the 90s, so there's different needs, and I think that the church has evolved and has come to a place to where where we're at now, really mean what we say about family, and being a caring place, and this church has really turned into a light in this dark community, in a lot of ways. So I feel like coming back and seeing a lot of the same faces, but also, I think you've said it before, and I've heard other pastors say it. My dad's even said it. We're not supposed to be the same person we were 20 years ago. So seeing how people have changed and how they've evolved and they've grown spiritually, and also my spiritual maturity of understanding that where I put people in boxes, just like I put myself in a box, and I hindered myself in my walk with Christ because I let my past really get in my head a lot of times, that other people would change too. So there was that. And then the biggest thing was knowing that I was, at the time we started coming, Kaylin was pregnant. So that was a huge, I knew I wanted my son to be raised in church. Also having Sunday lunch with the family, with mom and dad, and having that environment and knowing that the opportunity that my child would have, not only would he be in church, but I was never in church with my grandparents' unless we went and visited my grandparents in Somerville.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, I love Somerville Baptist is like a second home to me because I grew up there in the summers, so spent a lot of time there, and I always enjoyed that as a kid. So I looked at those things and was like, it would be amazing for my child to have that opportunity to just on the regular grow up in the church with his grandparents and have those opportunities. So a lot of it was just things like that, knowing that, hey, and knowing mom and dad kept singing your praise about you need to really come here, this pastor. And Kaylin and I, before coming here, had been at Calvary pre-COVID. And then when COVID hit, we kind of fell into that bubble of it got too easy to stay home.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and it came to a point of, hey, we need to be back in church. And in some ways, she pushed it more than I did. And that has been, God bless me with a beautiful, godly woman that when I have slacked, she has pulled it up and kind of pulled in the reins and said, hey, listen, you're supposed to be the spiritual leader of this family. It's time, let's do it. So
that's great. That's awesome. And so here you are on the Menorah Podcast.
And here you are, yes.
So, all right. Well, hey, Stafford, I hope the congregation has enjoyed. I know Alan and I both know you pretty well, but hopefully the congregation has enjoyed getting to hear a few things about you they probably didn't know before. And so for our listeners, we'll try to start doing these again. And I think this is our first interview of 2025, our first interview. So you hold that title. But like I said, thank you so much for joining in. And if you haven't already listened to part 1, you can go back on the YouTube channel and listen to the last week's episode. But Stafford, you got any closing thoughts, anything? Good?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So our next podcast will be episode 54, so we will see you all next week. It'll be March by then, my favorite month. And basketball's coming, baseball's coming, and best parts of the year are still ahead, in my opinion. Thank you so much for listening to the 53rd episode of the Menorah Podcast. Just want to remind you the purpose of the Menorah Podcast is share the light, speak the light, and send the light of Jesus Christ all across the airwaves of the internet, wherever you are listening to the podcast today. If you haven't already, like, follow, subscribe, and we will see you next